Oh, wow. I just love that song. Thank you so much, Olivia. You did it beautiful. So we have a special guest. My dear friend, who he just met me today, but, you know, I've known him a long time. Greg Lavoie. He is the author of Callings and his new book, Vital Science, which we have in our hallway and our bookstore. He is a former columnist and reporter for USA Today and the Cincinnati Enquirer. He's a former professor of journalism at the University of New Mexico. He's written for the New York Times Magazine, the Washington Post, Omni, the Psychology Today, Reader's Digest, and many, many, many other publications, as well as for corporate promotional and television projects. As a lecturer and a seminar leader, he's presented at the Smithsonian Institute and Unity of Dallas. Just about the same level, don't you think? I thought so. He's got a whole list of places, and he comes to us today. We're so pleased to welcome on his new book tour from Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome, Greg Lavoie.
Wow, that was delightful. Yeah, the Smithsonian and Unity of Dallas. Works for me. Yeah. Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be back. So, I think I'm just going to jump right in. In the acknowledgments page of the new book, the last but not least entry there is an acknowledgement of my mother for being a consummate role model in living a passionate life, and also for always giving me lots of material to write about. But there is a postscript to that acknowledgement that I'd like to share because it has everything to do with my personal fascination with the subject of passion. And that is that in the last 15 or 20 years of my mother's life, starting roughly in her early 60s, her get up and go, as they say, got up and went. And, her spark, her mojo, her vitality, her life force. And I think it was the victim of both neglect and the law of entropy, which tells us that systems tend to lose energy over time unless more energy is pumped into that system. So in other words, a hot cup of coffee will eventually cool down unless reheated. All right? A clock will eventually run down unless rewound. Oatmeal will eventually congeal if you stop stirring it. All right? As will marriages. Some of you know this experience of soulmates that turn into stalemates. But my mother just quit stirring the oatmeal, right? She stopped active engagement in life, which is what I really think passion is ultimately about. And what crystallized this for me was a conversation that she and I had in the last couple of years ago. She had been, I think, at a loss for about 15 years or more about how to spend her time since retiring from being a stockbroker. All right? And one afternoon, very uncharacteristically, she asked me what I thought she should do with her time. And so I made some suggestions. I said, what about taking some art classes? She said, oh, I did that already. As if art is, something you do once and check off a list. I said, well, what about taking one of those music appreciation courses at the college that'll take you on field trips to the symphony and the opera, because she wasn't driving anymore at that point. And she said, those are for old people, which only prompted me to bite my tongue. I said, well, what about a trip? I know you can't do the adventure travel you like anymore, but what about a cruise up the Inside Passage? Or a barge trip of Provence or something. At least you'll get out of Dodge. And she just shrugged. She went, I said, okay, how about volunteering with SCORE? This is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. It's a national mentoring program. I said, you have such incredible experience first woman stockbroker at E.F. Hutton, okay? You had such incredible experience you could share with younger generations. And to which she said, "Oh, please, volunteering? That counts for absolutely nothing," she said, "on a resume." I said, "Mother, you're 82 years old. Are you really still building your resume? Are you really still climbing the corporate ladder? I mean, not that you should give up the good fight, but geez, you know." And you know, it was at this point that I realized that I had to let go of my own good fight. All right? This is the one where I continued to encourage and cajole and inspire and just outright nag my mother to take on some new challenges, make some new friends, get out of the house, submit yourself to some of the deeper calls that come in this later phase of life. You know, just to re-engage with the world and come back to life after what I perceived to be the dual demotivators of retirement and a second divorce. Or as she once put it, no one to do it for anymore. And you know, maybe a lot of people have this revelation, especially when they retire, that they discover that they have a kind of a radioactive core of depression that was just being held in check all those years by, if you will, the cooling towers of busy lives. And when those busy lives stop or even slow down, the depression comes to the fore. All right? So, I'm just saying that my mother essentially apparently lost the will to participate, to explore, to create, to contribute, right? And just stopped investing herself in life, stopped investing in herself. And you can't make somebody do that. Even if you are Mr. Callings and your own mother's thrown your game all off, you know, you can't make somebody do that. But I wondered, how does this happen, right? How does it happen that passion turns into dispassion? How do people lose the appetite for being in the game and let their vitality drain away? How does passion turn into resignation and boredom and time being torn off the calendar unused? And of course, how do you stop the slide? So I know this much. I know that passion comes and goes. It comes and goes. There's no such thing as a life of passion any more than there's a perpetual motion object. It's got its seasons and it comes and goes. I know this. I also know that life is perfectly capable of knocking the stuffing out of people, right? With its disappointments and its demands and its sometimes mind-numbing routines. And so if you're just trying to keep your head above water, if you're just trying to get by day to day to day, maybe it's asking a lot to also kick up your heels. You know? How many of you guys have ever seen the movie Dead Poets Society? All right, most of you. So you'll probably recognize this. I actually heard somebody say this once. She said, "I have a Carpe Diem mug, but truthfully at 6 a.m., it doesn't make me want to seize the day. It makes me want to slap a dead poet." And I know that there's a clue in there when my mother says there's no one to do it for anymore. You know, because psychologists talk about what they call primary and secondary motivation. All right? So this is doing something for its own sake, for the charge and the challenge of it, and then there's doing something for the payoffs, whether it's attention or money or power or sex or influence or whatever. All right? And there's a pretty simple test to determine which one of those two is in the driver's seat. And that is that when the payoffs dry up, do you still do the work? Right? Are your passions still intact? All right? And nor is this by any means, this drama, just a challenge for older people. I mean, I know that aging has something to do with it. I mean, just, again, the law of entropy being what it is, that the energy it takes to fuel your passions, it may just not be in the batteries to the same degree it was when you were younger, and you can't just slap in a new pair of batteries, right? So there is a certain slowing down that occurs, a tempering of the fight and the drive in us. But I think that losing interest in life is purely optional and detrimental. It's detrimental because I think that passion is really ultimately a survival mechanism, because our attachment to life depends on our interest in it. It really depends on our interest in it, our sense of curiosity and enthusiasm and wonder and reverence and gratitude and participation. Just participation, right? My brother Ross sent me an article recently about the mother of a mutual friend of ours whose resume reads almost exactly like our mother's. In fact, both of them were among the first women on Wall Street. And in explaining to the interviewer her strategy for staying engaged and passionate about life, she said, well, you get up in the morning, you get out, and you stay active. And I know this is almost the stuff of cliche, but I think it explains volumes about why she is still in the game, in going to work part-time in her mid-90s, and sharp as a tack, you know? So apparently there's a connection between passion and productivity and success, if not longevity.